Hello, I'm Abigail DeJarnatt.
My name is Allison Lind.
I'm your host, Grant May.
My name's Noelle Fitchett.
And welcome
back
to the Counteract Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Counteract Podcast. I'm Abigail DeJarnatt. I am joined yet again by my friend, my counterpart at Counteract USA, the one, the only, Allie Paris. Allie, glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, not like you're...
Truly an honor to be on the Abigail DeJarnatt segment of the Counteract USA podcast.
It's not like she's like not 99% of the time also in studio while we're shooting this, but you know, sometimes she makes an appearance and you guys seem to enjoy the episodes that she's on. So here we are. Today we're going to be talking about the thing that everyone's talking about this month, and that is this election and the election cycle. And that's crazy. Not that we have any profound political commentary per se, but we just kind of wanted to jump on and talk about some of the things that we've been hearing from people at Counteract, our friends in the conservative movement, about this election, especially this election as a Gen Z Christian. It's not my first time voting in a presidential election, but Allie was born in 2004. So it is her first presidential election. And so we just kind of wanted to hop on and talk through, again, nothing from a partisan perspective per se. We are a 501c3. We cannot endorse candidates or jail. So,
but I endorse, no, I'm kidding.
No, we will be cutting that from the podcast. But saying all that to say, we can, as Christians, have firm lines, biblical lines, but also be smart about the voting process, strategic, wise as serpents, innocent as doves. But before we get into all of that, this podcast, as always, is brought to you by none other than
Patriot Mobile.
If you are like so many of Americans who have had enough of supporting companies that hate our values, then it's time to switch to Patriot Mobile as your cellular wireless provider. They're an example of putting the cause ahead of the profits, and that's why we at Counteract USA are super proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all three major networks, so you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military, veterans, and first responder heroes. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching super easy, so you can keep your number, you can keep your phone, or you can upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan to fit your needs. So just go to patriotmobile.com/counteract or call 972-PATRIOT. You get 1 month of Patriot Mobile service free when you use offer code Counteract USA. So join us. Make the switch today. That's patriotmobile.com/counteract, patriotmobile.com/counteract, or call 972-PATRIOT. Okay, Allie, what are kind of your initial thoughts going into this election? We are like days away from the election, and there's a lot of chatter. We had the VP debate last week. So much on the Twitter feeds, on social media about that, memes upon memes upon memes. And I think that's another weird thing just about the season that we're in American politics, is everything becomes jokes really fast. So it's kind of hard to discern the truth from not even lies, yes, but jokes, and not having our opinions tainted by what's funny. I mean, yes, but also making sure that we are actually doing our research, understanding what the values, the policies are, the implications of those policies. So with all of that, what are kind of your initial thoughts going into your very first presidential election?
Very first. Crazy. I'm going to throw in a story real fast because this is actually hilarious, but I was definitely one of those like kids who would work on campaigns, like go and, do the canvassing. And I remember one time when I was 12 years old, walking up to a house with like all my pamphlets, and my cousin was with me, and we knocked on the door, and then we ended up having this 30-minute conversation with this girl. And she's like, okay, you guys voting in this election? And both of us were like, we're not quite old enough. And she's like, well, what about the next one? And we're like, no. And she's like, well, why are you doing this? And the only response I could think of as a 12-year-old, was because this affects me too. It's not just it affects you once you're 18, but it affects everybody. And so going into this election, I've heard kind of answers all over the place, whether you're Christian, whether you're not, whether you're conservative, just Republican, libertarian, whatever the mix is. And we talk to a lot of people and we hear all of the mixes of answers, but the truth is the outcome affects everybody. And so kind of heading into this, I think honestly, I have to be careful on what I say here for that darn 501c3. No,
We're not going to jail.
no jail. No. But I've honestly seen and been disappointed definitely in some of the policy or, platform changes, stances. However, I think there's, strategies that go into absolutely everything and all facets of it. So definitely feeling that, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I definitely have like in my head who I think will win and kind of what I think will happen, but that's just purely a guess. And then something that you said that I think is funny is now campaign managers and like part of the strategy has to be on social media. Neat. Like back when I was 12, not really. Back when I was 8, definitely not. Now it's like if you're not keeping up with the trends and if your press secretary isn't young and on top of things and knowing like the memes and like the jokes and the behind the scenes, everything going on, you're going to miss so hard. And that will change the opinions of our generation. Like Generation Z, they're like, oh, well, I didn't like his response on this, or he doesn't put this off, very well. You might not get the vote.
What's the vibe? Like people are literally looking at vibes. I saw last week during the VP debate, there were really like objectively, JD Vance did an incredible job in that debate. Very articulate. He knew what he was saying, why he was saying it, as far as what he was supposed to say. He didn't get rattled. And so I was going through the Twitter X threads, and there was like one meme of, it was like JD Vance getting ready for this debate, and it was like some emo like punk rocker putting eyeliner on under his eye, and I cackled. Like he probably had some eyeliner on, but his eyes were very blue. It was just really funny. And so, but it's one of those things where it's, man, like if your perspective is only being shaped by what you're seeing on social media, it's absolutely crucial. And like Allie's saying, Gen Z is voting. With everything we talk about on this podcast of what we as Gen Z are facing, like that's alarming. Like Gen Z is voting and we are Gen Z. So who's influencing Gen Z? Well, it's social media people, but it's influencers, social media people. That was, okay, good, articulate, Abby. Basically JD Vance here. But it's us. These are our friends. These are the people that we have influence over and access to. And I think like for me, it's always alarming to see the turnout rates of Christians at the polls. Why? Why are we as Christians not making sure, being diligent to exercise our political authority as Christians? We, the people, are the ones who govern this country. And so if we are supposed to steward gifts that God has given us well, then we have to make sure that we are using them, and we have to be sure that we are stewarding them well, using them effectively. At the end of the day, when we are voting for people, and people are fallible. And so it gets hard because we always talk about on this podcast and within Christianity that there is no middle ground, there's no neutrality, there's no gray, it's all black and white. But sometimes black and white gets really fine-tuned, and you have to make the best choice based on the options that are given to you. And sometimes that's not our favorite choice or our ideal choice. You're not voting for a boyfriend. You're not voting for your pastor. You are voting for the next president of the United States or whatever office. Do not negate or sleep on your local elections, because that affects us more directly, and more instantly than even a federal election. But the federal elections do change the trajectory of our country moving forward. So it does matter, but we do have to be strategic. I keep going back to the verse, wise as serpents, innocent as doves. Being wise, diligent, using strategy, not letting our own ideals of what we want cause us to have ineffective decisions or even ideas of American politics. If we're like, well, I disagree with this person on this issue, therefore I'm not voting at all. How does that help? How does that change anything? We as believers have to make the best choices in our politics, in our voting process, in order to have the most freedoms so that we can continue to, as Christians, exercise our First Amendment rights and make effective change. If we don't like the way that let's say the Republican Party, obviously the elephant in the room, no pun intended, is that the Republican Party this year changed their entire platform and basically threw out two of the biggest issues that we as believers care about, that being the issue of life and the issue of marriage. And so it's one of those things where we as believers have to remember that the Republican Party platform is not our standard of truth. It is not our standard of morality. It can change, but we have to anchor our beliefs, our hope in the Word of God. And who can we vote for? How can we steward our political authority best, most effectively, to ensure that we have a country where we can exercise our biblical steadfast values, make changes to the cultural narrative so that we can make changes to the political narratives. And we can't do that if we just simply don't vote, or if we're voting in such a way where we're going to be ineffective, or if we're spreading or if we're complaining instead of making positive change. Allie, what's the thing that your mom always says about, like, if you can't, like, don't complain about something unless you, what's the thing that your mom says? I adopt Allie's family stories and parents' wisdom all the time. Like, my parents are awesome, but I also absorb Allie's families.
I don't remember the exact wording, but I definitely know what you're talking about. But when we were growing up, if there was anything that, like, we would complain about or think, like, oh, this is, they're not doing this the most effective way, or it's inefficient or something, she would literally make us, like, join it. She'd be like, either join it or get out, but don't complain about it, because that does absolutely nothing. And so, I think you're totally right. Like, if you're not willing to go make a difference, if you're not willing to go and, like, help with the problem and try to make it better, then maybe we shouldn't be complaining about it.
And, like, chief among them that is guilty of complaining about things, and then the Lord convicts me or sends a mentor or an Allie to step in and be like, but how is this helping? How is just complaining about it or pointing out the flaws making it better? Why can we not go and then make it better? This is a very kind of random example of this, but the Christian movie industry is an area that is seriously flawed in the sense of
we're gonna get so canceled, and it's not because of the topic of this, it's because we're hating on Christian movies. Flywheel, my favorite movie ever.
No, actually the Kendrick brothers movies are better than some of the ones that I've seen lately. No, and they've gotten better. They really have. But here's the thing is, we should be going in and making changes in the spaces where we see a need. And so I applaud these Christian filmmakers for going in and creating these movies, this art that does offer hopeful, gospel-centered messages, narratives, but we've got to do it well. Whatever we do, work at it with all our hearts, working unto the Lord and not men. And objectively, some of the media that's being produced is not excellent. It's not. And so we have to make sure that, but the thing to do is not to be like, oh, well, we're not going to make Christian movies anymore. We're not going to do it. No. We make another one. We do better. We make better choices. We learn. We stay in the fight. Like, again, like, that's a really random example, but I was just thinking, like, what if we just never made a Christian movie because we didn't like the direction that Christian movies were going, where they either have questionable funding or they're just not very good. So the answer is to not. or to only market movies to Christians in very small bubbles. Like, we have to think about what we can do to be most effective. And literally going back to like kind of the theme of our conference this last Resolve to Stand conference, becoming a Josiah generation is about tearing down the altars that exist in our culture, rewriting them. So if we do not like the way that, say, the Republican Party is going, well, then we, the church, have to step in, tear down the high places, stop the momentum, and make effective change. That's what stewarding political authority well looks like. Another thing that, just kind of switching directions here, another thing that we see a lot in elections is a lack of knowledge on the issues. Explain what the issues is even referring to, and what do we do to be better stewards when it comes to the issues on the end of our ballots?
Oh, yes. These ballot initiatives. I'm telling you, they're so annoying. Yes. So annoying because nobody actually knows what they are until you get there. I remember back in 2022, I was helping with a government class, and they basically were like, hey, can you come tell us about these issues? And I had been working like about a semester on some of the issues at that point. But I walked in, talked about it. Some of the moms came in. And then when I walked out, all the moms were like, well, that's not what we've heard. We've heard this. And these people are saying this about it. And they're truly written basically to deceive the like average citizen of that, specific state, so that they can get it passed. And so basically these ballot initiatives, how and only I think is it 16 states that actually do them? 15 or 16, yeah. But the process is basically the people sign petitions and they say, we want this on our ballot, and then we're going to vote on it. So you can have everything from like right now in Arkansas, we had like a marijuana one for recreational marijuana. We had an
expanded, it's actually expanded medical marijuana, which is totally different than recreational marijuana.
Yeah, different. Or there's one about a casino, and then there's the one about abortion, or whatever it is. Thankfully, most of them actually will not even be on our ballot. But for the states that have it, go check them out, and then check out your like local family council.
Because what these things do is they change the dadgum constitution of your state, and then you can't change it back.
Yeah, so go find the people who speak the legalese, who actually know what they mean and what they say. Because again, they're written so vaguely that you think, oh, this maybe sounds like a good idea, or this might not hurt it. They are so harmful. Like you said, they get in the Constitution, and then you're just done. You have it now indefinitely, and they cannot be reversed unless you kind of go through the whole process again to undo it. So for any of you in these 15, 16 states, check if you have them so that you're not blindsided by the end. And then once you get to the end, don't just check yes or no. If you don't know what they are, take the time to actually read it. Normally there's the blurb on the page. Read the amendment so you don't just, again, waste your vote. Because most of the times these have such narrow margins. Like, it's not, oh, well, 60,000 people are going to vote one way, so my vote doesn't matter. No, they're like, one, like the change of it is just by a few hundred votes normally.
Yeah, and again, if we are most of the people that listen to this podcast would consider themselves conservative. And so what is it that we are conserving? Well, technically speaking, it's the Constitution, and that even applies to state constitutions. And if things need to be changed or improved, okay, we the people can do that. We have the agency, the authority to do that. But don't be caught off guard by the ballot initiatives at the end of your ballot when you get to the voting box. Like, that happens all the time. We focus on the candidates, we focus on, and really even when it comes to presidential elections, we really focus on the president, who we're voting for president. Know who else is running for different offices. Even for Supreme Court justices in your state, the Supreme Court justice is technically of your state is a nonpartisan position, but I think that that's ridiculous. You should look into how your Supreme Court justice on your ballot rules on certain cases, how they interpret the Constitution. You can generally look that up, or again, go to your state's family council, family foundation website, because that matters. It matters how we are governing it, because like Allie said, like that was a good story that you started in there with. But this does affect everyone, and it affects our future. And again, if we are the next generation that's going to be leading businesses and governing the next generation of politicians, of moms and dads who will shape the future of our country, we're the ones that get to determine what the trajectory of the state of our nation, the future of our nation is. It's consequential. And we as believers cannot have a bye. We can't just sit on the sidelines. Again, go research information about the church going turnout rate for elections. It's crazily low. It's crazily low. But as believers, Allie, we've been talking a lot about having dual citizenship. That's kind of thrown around a lot in the faith, family, freedom. And it kind of sounds silly, but can you kind of expound on that idea and the importance of caring about how things are happening here on earth? Like, we can't, like, obviously our focus, our hope is in heaven. Our eyes are on Jesus. Our hope is in heaven. So we don't have to be rattled by what's going on in our nation's politics. We don't have to be rattled by the outcome of this election, but we have to be good stewards. We have to be diligent, to be aware, to be informed, to be involved, and to do everything we can to make sure that our nation is the best place on earth for the gospel to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, like in the Bible, it talks about like, yes, we're citizens of heaven, but that not just there, like also being a good steward or being a good citizen of the place you're born in. And so kind of looking at that, like, what does that mean? Well, it does mean being engaged and active and not just kind of sitting back on the sidelines. I was thinking also back to another story. Back in 2020, I took that election very deeply. I was like, oh no, I'm distraught. The world is ending. My life is over. And I just wish I was born in a different time period because I think it would have been better. And I'm like, honestly, looking at different time periods, we've had it the most chill pretty much, you know. But I was talking to my aunt and then she reminded me just this past weekend of it. She's like, you remember saying that? And I was like, I do remember saying that. She was like, has your opinion changed? I'm like, completely. The Lord has put each one of us here for a purpose at this exact moment in time. And so if you're thinking it from that perspective, what are you going to do with the time God has given you now? Like, are you going to waste it and just kind of sit around? I'm not saying everybody has to be, you know, a politician. No, but I am saying that you do need to be responsible and steward the things that God has given you well, whether that is money or resources or time. My grandpa would call it the 5 T's: thought, time, talent, treasure, trust. How are you stewarding those? But then with that, like, how are you being a good citizen again with what God has given you? Not just saying like, well, I'm not voting for this person because he doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Is that the mindset we should be having? Or is it should be like, we should be saying like, as a citizen, as the Lord has put me on this earth in this place for this moment in time, what does my vote do? And then being a good steward with that.
Word. Anything else you want to add? That was kind of a great place to land. Anything else you want to throw onto that? Any insight or wisdom you have as a first-time presidential voter? I keep bragging on her about that. Allie and I became friends, started doing Counteract together when I was 21 and Allie was 17. So it was embarrassing there for just a second. She had braces. When she finally got her braces off and hit her 20s in the same 6 months, like, I can't even tell you like how excited I was. Happy for her, happy for myself. Allie, anything else you want to add before we go?
That was this year, by the way. I turned 20 this year. I got my braces off last year. That's a whole nother story.
One time I just asked her flat out, I was like, hey, so like, when you getting your braces off, buddy? And she's like, don't talk to me about it. I have YouTubed how to remove them myself. And she was not kidding.
Touchy subject. Yeah. Not a happy camper there. I had them for like 4 years. Very bad. Anyway, yes. I mean, if you were a 2006 baby or above, you are voting in this election. This isn't like great wisdom, but it is fun. Go with friends, go with family. I don't know, make a fun little outing out of it. Get the sticker. My first time voting, and it wasn't for a presidential election, but we had all the midterms, you know, everything going on. I walk in for the first time and they're like, are you a first time voter? And I said, I am. And they said, okay, well, we asked the city if there was a budget for confetti cannons that we could shoot at first time voters. Unfortunately, there was not. but just know we wanted to shoot confetti. So that's what I'm telling you. If I was there in person, I would take a confetti cannon, shoot it for you and say, great job, be informed, and go vote.
Yeah. Get the sticker. That's confetti can. We love confetti cannons around here. We truly do. Coming to you at a Counteract conference soon. Not really. Actually, can't say that forever. But with all of that, I would say just be praying about how to steward your vote. What would the Lord have you do? Use wisdom. Talk to people that you know and trust, people that are voting, people that are older than you, more than one person. Get multiple opinions. If you're confused about something or how to vote or why to vote or a certain issue or policy position, go talk to other people. Don't jump on bandwagons. Don't be ineffective. Don't be complacent. And as you're praying about your vote, be praying about our country. Be praying for our country. Be praying for our leaders. No matter who gets elected in November, pray for our leaders. Pray for our country. And ultimately know that this world is not our home. This country is not our home. Our hope is in heaven. And because of that, we can be effective and engaged citizens while we have this opportunity. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Counteract Podcast. If you want to learn more about Counteract USA, just go to counteractusa.org. You can fill out our Get Involved form and let us know how you want to get involved with Counteract. Leave a 5-star review on this podcast. Share it with a friend. Follow us on social media. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next time.